When I heard a man's voice answer my wife's phone, calm and unfamiliar, the house around me felt like it tilted, as if every year we'd spent together suddenly lost its balance. "Hello," he said, casual, like he had every right to be there. I didn't respond at first. My mouth was open, but no sound came out. I was standing in our kitchen, one hand gripping the counter, the other holding my phone so tightly my fingers ached. An hour earlier, she had kissed my cheek and told me, "Don't wait up tonight," smiling in that distracted way she'd developed over the past few months. She said she was meeting friends, nothing unusual. Yet something in her tone had felt thin, like stretched fabric ready to tear. "Who is this?" I finally managed. There was a pause. A brief one, but long enough to let dread bloom in my chest. This is Mark. She's in the bathroom. Can I take a message?" I hung up without saying goodbye. The silence afterward was worse than the voice itself. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked. Our dog lifted his head from the floor, watching me with mild concern. I slid down into a chair, staring at the dark screen of my phone like it might explain what I'd just heard. Mark. A name I didn't recognize. A voice that didn't sound nervous or apologetic or confused. He sounded comfortable. I told myself there had to be an explanation. There always is, right? Maybe her phone died and someone borrowed it. Maybe she was helping a friend. Maybe I was overreacting. I'd built a marriage on trust, not suspicion. Or at least I thought I had. But doubt had been creeping in for a while. Late nights. Her phone always face down. Laughing at texts she didn't share. Little changes that I noticed but never challenged because I didn't want to be the kind of husband who interrogated his wife. I poured myself a drink I didn't really want and sat in the living room with the lights off. Midnight came and went. 1 a.m. passed. I told myself I wasn't waiting up, even though I was wide awake, staring at the door like it might confess something when it opened. She came home just after 2. I heard her keys, the soft click of the lock. I didn't move. I listened instead, the way you do when you're afraid of what you might see. She stepped into the living room and froze when she noticed me. "You're still up," she said, trying to sound casual. "I called you," I replied. My voice surprised me. It was steady. Too steady. She hesitated, then shrugged off her jacket. My phone must have been in my bag. I didn't hear it. A man answered. That landed between us like broken glass. She didn't react at first. Then she laughed, but it came out sharp and forced. "What? That's impossible." He said his name was Mark. Her smile faded. She looked away, busying herself with placing her purse on the table, straightening something that didn't need straightening. "You must have misheard." I didn't. Silence stretched. I could hear my own breathing, loud and uneven. Finally, she sighed and sat across from me. "I didn't want to tell you like this." There it was. That sentence people say right before your life splits in two. She admitted she'd been seeing someone. "Not seriously," she said. "Not at first. Just talking. Just venting. Just feeling seen." She used words that softened the truth, like cushions placed carefully over sharp corners. I asked how long. She said, "A few months," and avoided my eyes. "A few months. While we planned vacations. While we talked about repainting the bedroom. While she asked me how my day was and kissed me goodnight. I never meant to hurt you," she said, tears forming now, real ones this time. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask how she could lie so easily. Instead, I just nodded, because my chest felt too tight to do anything else. She slept in the guest room that night. I didn't sleep at all. The next days blurred together. We spoke in fragments. Logistics. Work schedules. Groceries. The real conversation hung between us, heavy and untouched. I replayed every memory from the past year, searching for signs I'd missed. Moments that once felt warm now felt staged. I questioned my own instincts, my own worth. Was I blind or just convenient? One evening, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone. Us on the couch, laughing. Her head on my shoulder. I wondered when that version of us had disappeared, and how I hadn't noticed the exact moment it happened. She said she needed space to think. I said I needed the truth. Neither of us knew what that meant anymore. When she finally admitted she loved him, not just the attention but him, something inside me went quiet. The anger faded, replaced by a dull, hollow ache. Love wasn't something I could argue with. It wasn't something I could fix with effort or patience. That night, I packed a bag. As I stood at the door, she asked if I was leaving for good. "I don't know," I said honestly. "But I can't stay like this." She didn't try to stop me. Maybe that hurt most of all. I stayed with my brother at first, sleeping on his couch, pretending I was fine because it was easier than explaining how broken I felt. During the day, I went to work and nodded at people and answered emails, all while carrying this quiet weight in my chest that never let up. At night, the questions came. What did he have that I didn't? When did I stop being enough? I hated myself for asking them, because they made her betrayal feel like my failure. She texted sometimes. Short messages. Apologies. Updates. I'm confused. I miss you. Each one reopened the wound just enough to remind me it was still there. Eventually, we agreed to meet. Neutral ground. A coffee shop we'd never been to together. She looked smaller somehow, like the confidence she'd borrowed from secrecy had evaporated in the open light. I ended it, she said before I could speak. With him. I waited for relief. It didn't come. Why? I asked. Because I realized what I was losing. I stirred my coffee, watching the dark liquid swirl. And if you hadn't realized? She didn't answer. We talked for hours. She cried. I listened. She said she wanted to rebuild. To earn my trust back. To go to counseling. To do whatever it took. I wanted to believe her. Part of me still loved her, deeply and stubbornly. But another part of me had changed. Something fundamental had cracked, and I didn't know if it could be repaired. Trust, once broken, doesn't come back all at once. It limps. It hesitates. It flinches at small things. We tried for a while. Date nights that felt like interviews. Conversations that circled the same pain. I found myself checking her phone when she wasn't looking, hating myself for it even as I did it. One evening, she reached for my hand, and I pulled away without thinking. The hurt in her eyes mirrored my own, and I realized then that we were both bleeding, but in different ways. The final clarity came quietly. No shouting. No dramatic confession. Just a moment when I saw us sitting across from each other, exhausted, afraid, and no longer reaching. I don't think I can forgive you, I said. The words felt heavy but honest. She nodded, tears sliding down her face. I was afraid you'd say that.
We signed papers a few months later. Dividing a life into boxes and signatures felt surreal. This was the woman I'd planned to grow old with, reduced to a series of legal decisions. On my last night in the house, I stood in the empty living room and listened to the echo of my footsteps. I thought about the call, the voice that wasn't hers. The moment everything changed. It hurt. It still does. But as I closed the door behind me, I felt something else too. A thin thread of relief. The truth, as painful as it was, had freed me from waiting, from wondering, from living in the dark. Sometimes love doesn't end with a fight. Sometimes it ends with a phone call answered by the wrong person and the courage to finally listen to what that moment is telling you.